Assistant Commissioner for Innovation and Technology Commission, to share with us about promoting applied research and developing through the Innovation Technology Fund. Mr. Tsang, please.
Good afternoon, Professor Wah, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's given me great pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to the RGC Council members and the participants today. As Professor Fa mentioned, my PowerPoint or the presentation would mainly be on how the ITC is promoting applied research through the Innovation and Technology Fund. Just a brief history. The fund was established in 1999. The ambit of the fund specifically is to support projects that contribute to the promotion and upgrading of industry in Hong Kong. So this is different from the RGC ambit, in which basic research would be a very important element. And in the case of the ITF, application and technology transfer to the industry would be more important. Just some figures. As at March this year, we have already supported over 2,000 projects at about 7.7 billion. These projects only accounts for the R&D projects. We also have a scheme that supports non-R&D projects that contribute to the promotion of innovation culture in Hong Kong. And to give you a taste of the importance of universities, in last year, 50% of the funding approved by the ITF are undertaken by projects undertaken by university professors or researchers. This is how we view the whole research process, from upstream research right up to commercialization and into the market. As you can see, the RGC would focus on basic research. At ITF, what we believe would start from what we call applied research. Applied research, of course, could overlap with basic research to a certain extent, but therefore we have different funding programs to cater for the different needs of the research process at different point in time. As you can also see at the bottom, there's a funding ratio. What we view this funding ratio is that the more upstream, the risk of the research would be higher, and therefore the funding from the government is generally higher. And on the extreme right of the scale, when the product is almost ready for the market, we would generally expect the customer or the industry to take over. So that's why we have contract research 0-10. But we are changing this a little bit since from this year onward, and I'll go to that later. We have a lot of funding programs. They are very complicated because they have been built up over almost 10 years. I would just highlight a few key points of the programs. The first 3 programs all support applied R&D research. They differ in the sense of the funding ratio from the government and the maximum funding amount. I would say that generally we expect projects to start with the ITSP, the first program, which is basically starting from a platform project in which the government pays for 90% of the funding. And then when the project is closer to the market, we would expect applicants to apply for collaborative research projects. By collaborative research, we mean collaboration with the industry, so we would expect a certain proportion of the research funding to come from the industry. And when the project outcome is almost ready for commercialization, we do have cases where university professors form a team or form a company with its students or team members, and they form a startup company. And when a startup company start to do research, is generally small. So we have the small entrepreneurship research assistant program for that sort of funding. It's generally on a matching basis, but since this year, the Financial Secretary has announced that we will have a new scheme called the Enterprise Support Scheme, which will be more relaxed compared to the existing CREP program. And we are finalizing the details of that scheme, and we expect that to be introduced in the coming year. So just a brief introduction of ITSP, mainly undertaken by universities, our 5 R&D centers, and other designated institutions. Private companies' involvement is usually as the sponsor of the project. Generally speaking, the maximum funding amount from the government is 30 million, and the project duration is 2 years. This is shorter compared to some of the research programs under the RGC, because generally speaking, what we always say is the time to market is very important. Some of the technologies that we have seen are quite mature, so we will expect some outcome within a period of 2 years. As I mentioned just now, we expect some kind of industry sponsorship for platform projects, which is basically the more upstream type of projects, is 10%. And for the collaborative types, we expect 50% industry sponsorship. And all this sponsorship coming from the industry, they are eligible for 30% cash rebate under the R&D cash rebate scheme. So this is an incentive to the companies to sponsor your research. So, and the applications are invited generally 2 times per year. The coming round will be invited around July this year. So watch out, and we will be sending out our invitations pretty soon. I do not intend to go into the detail, and the purpose of this slide is to show you that in the case of the ITF, we do look at wide range of factors apart from the innovation and technology component. In particular, we look for a holistic plan for realization or commercialization. And also, we would look at factors like relevant with the government policy, for example, whether it's relevant to our green policy or in the interest of the community. And this is getting more important in recent years because we have been promoting the application of R&D outcomes in the public sector. Specifically, we have a new scheme called the Public Sector Trial Scheme, in which we provide 100% funding for trials to be conducted in the public sector. And the last 2 factors are quite common. The last factor is quite common among government projects, and it refers to the management capability of the project investigator to manage the project properly. And number 6 is specific to ITF. Because we have industry sponsorship and the involvement of the industry, there could be some kind of arrangement with the industry on the licensing arrangement or the ownership of IPs. And these are all set out in the project proposal. This is the second program under the ITF. Generally, this is for application from companies. I will just highlight the matching grant for joint research. This is a little bit like the collaborative project under the ITSP, except that the company would propose the project and to identify a team in the university. This funding scheme is also provided on a matching grant basis. So basically, it's one-to-one matching from the government. The last one that I just mentioned is currently, this is the only program that supports in-house R&D for companies. But in the future, we will have the new enterprise support scheme, which will give a higher funding ceiling, and there will be less restriction on the size of the company. So we hope to introduce it pretty soon, subject to the approval of the Finance Committee, of course. And these are 2 major categories of measures that we have announced this year. The first type is to promote the application in the public sector. We have waived the industry sponsorship requirement for projects initiated by government departments, bureaus, or statutory bodies, or for projects with clear support from these bodies. And if there are clear community interests, the commissioner would be willing to waive the 10% sponsorship. This should make the commencement of projects much easier compared to the original arrangement. And we also raised the funding ceiling of the trial scheme from 30% to 50% of the original project cost. And the second point is also quite an important change. We have this year announced that we will extend the funding scope of ITF to cover more downstream activities. This will be introduced in the second round invitation coming up, and I'll just briefly show you the type of activities that we are intending to support. They are listed, these are just examples listed on the bottom right boxed in purple, the sort of like system integration, process optimization, or even clinical trials to a certain extent, and also licensing of third-party IP will also be supported. Of course, we do not intend to take over the role of private companies and actually churn out new products ourselves. But we hope that through these extension, there will be more interest from the industry to sponsor our projects and to bring more R&D outcomes into the market. And now I'll just highlight the key points of our proposed collaboration between RGC and ITF. I have to stress that this is not completely new. ITC has been working with the RGC for a long time, although the working relationship may not be as formalized as we are going to propose now. So we hope that through these new measures, we will have a closer link between the funding programs of both sides. And we also hope to encourage more professors to include applied R&D elements into their project proposal. And we also hope to provide a more smooth transition from RGC projects to the type of applied R&D projects supported by the ITF. Basically, applicants for RGC projects will be asked to provide an optional technology transfer plan in their project proposal. So this is at the start of the project proposal period. And ITC representative would be invited to sit in interview sessions of these schemes and to identify the potential projects for possible ITF support. We understand that this is quite possible that when we see the project is still at quite an early stage of research and it's quite far away from commercialization. But we would like to make note of these projects and to keep in view their development throughout their life. As we understand, some of the projects will span over a period of like 5 to 8 years. And we would continue to monitor these projects and to attend various seminars and symposiums. So in Cantonese, we say to try to identify these projects much earlier. And I have to stress that you do not have to wait until the end of your project to apply for ITF. We have quite a few successful examples of ITF projects and RGC projects being funded in parallel. For example, we have a case where it's an AOE project spanning over a period of 5 years. At various stages of the development of that project, ITF also supported different forms of platform project and collaborative projects. And in fact, some of the project outcomes have been commercialized and licensed to commercial companies. So basically, I have already covered the key points. I would just to say that in terms of timing, we would encourage the project coordinators to apply for funding from the ITF around 18 months or at least 18 months prior to their planned commencement of the applied R&D part of their project. And if we agree that there's certain kind of applied R&D element, we would try to negotiate with the project coordinator and to facilitate the approval process so that the ITF funding approval would be given at least 6 months before the end of the original RGC funded project. So we hope there shouldn't be a gap between the two funded projects, and hopefully there will be more parallel projects as a result of this new measure. And we'll also work together with RGC and Education Bureau to try to promote the new measures as far as possible. And we hope that more of you will make use of the new opportunity and to apply for the ITF funding support. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tsang. We'll now have the sharing sections by past awardees in 3 main groups. For Business Studies, Humanities and Social Sciences group, please stay in this theater. For Biology and Medicine group, please proceed to Library Extension 4. For Engineering and Physical Sciences group, please proceed to Library Extension 3. Our colleagues will show you the way. Please note that after the sharing section, we will return to this theater at 6 o'clock for the remaining sections. 個人，即嗰3個坐要上堂嗰3個人。
我頭先坐喺前邊，我都唔識㗎。
係啊。
邊個係 professor？
Kevin McBride 係，我諗佢。